growing up where I grew up, I always say that the only way we knew to make doctor money would have been in boots, because the only people that we saw really making money around us, particularly in our neighborhood, like the guy that had the new pickup truck, was a guy that was in construction. And so that was the only consciousness I really had, or else I would have picked something else, to be honest. There's better business models. Let's be completely clear about that. So I went into construction management, and it was 100% job placement when I came in as a freshman. When I graduated as a senior, there were no jobs. It was just, we were just in the middle of everything that happened in 2008, and there's just, that opportunity was not there. And at the time, it really hurt me. I was coming off a breakup. I was with Miss Louisiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tough breakup.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what made it tough is that because there were no jobs, I had to take a job at a very small town about 30 minutes from my college. It just so happened that I was able to get in touch with somebody nearby, and I was putting hay and digging around catch basins for a project. They were expanding the interstate through this small town for about 6 miles. But on the way to that job, there were 3 billboards of this woman with her crown on that I had to drive by, and my beat up pickup truck making $15 an hour with a college degree. Yeah. It was a down moment for me. And I think that even though I was the one that broke up with her, how it is, you break up with a girl and then, you go back and forth and you end up getting your little heart broke in the process. But it was a down moment.
There was no Instagram at that time, so she could start throwing up the photos and all the games, man. Like that, because that has just changed the game from another level. It's just,
that's a real thing as well.
Yeah.
But then also with that, you have to think your imagination gets you at that time, because it's like, if you
don't know what she's doing,
you don't know what.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was like, it was a rough time. And I think most of it had to do also with the fact that I'd felt like I had done everything right. I did exactly what everybody had ever told me to do to be successful and get on the right path. And it just so happens, due to how the debt cycle works, I came out at that time. Reflectively looking back, it was an absolute blessing. Mm-hmm. If I would have gotten that $75,000, $80,000 job that would have quickly got me into 125 and a company truck and an office and a big project manager position in Dallas, let's say, I would have been, life creep would have happened. Yeah. I would have got caught up in that, and I wouldn't have been forced into doing what I really wanted to do, which is start a business. And so luckily for me, I came out during that time, because I think that if I would have come out, let's say at a point where the economy was booming, I would have gotten such a good job, and I would have got so set up, and I probably would have bought a house, and I probably would have went down a different path than I did, and then eventually started my business later, which I think would have been a problem, because anybody that starts a business, you have this assumption that by the 18th month, you're going to figure everything out and you're going to be rolling. Well, I often say I made goals at 24 for 30 that I was not yet qualified to make at 24. Those goals that I made at 24 to where I'll be by the time I was 30, I didn't have the competencies and understanding to know that those things were a little bit further off than I might have assumed based off the information I didn't have, or as the company would grow, I'd run into things that I didn't understand and had to go get those competencies around. And those are not easy things. And so I feel very lucky that I got such an early start, because had I started at 30, I'd still be building it right now. And so for that, I like to frame the fact that I graduated when I graduated as a very lucky thing that happened to me, because I really had no choice but to do what I wanted to do anyway. I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad my junior year.
Great book.
Yeah. And it got my attention. We were going to play Arkansas, and they had like Felix Jones and Darren McFadden and all these guys. So I'm like, let me distract myself on this bus, because it was just a bus ride from Monroe to Little Rock. And I knew then, but I didn't know how fast I was going to do it. And luckily, I was just in a situation where the jobs were scarce, jobs were hard to come by, and so I had to scrape everything up together to get the business started. And I started sooner than I would have ever started otherwise. So I'm very lucky that I had that downtime in my life to get forced into something I ultimately wanted to do anyway.